A very good evening and thank you for joining GBS News at 9. My name is Stephen George and our sign language interpreter tonight is Paul Madenge. Now, Prime Cabinet Secretary Musalia Mudavadi has raised concerns over the billions of shillings spent on participation on public affairs, calling for an audit on its cost effectiveness. Speaking in Nairobi during the 2025 Open Government Partnership Ministerial meeting, he questioned whether the process, which is constitutionally mandated, justifies its high price tag amid competing national priorities like healthcare and infrastructure.
Prime Cabinet Secretary Musalia Mudavadi has called for a review and audit of public participation expenditures at both national and county levels. Speaking at the high-level 2025 Open Government Partnership, Africa and Middle East Regional Ministerial meeting in Nairobi, Mudavadi revealed that the cost of conducting public participation for a single law review ranges from 10 million Kenyan shillings to 100 million Kenyan shillings, depending on its complexity. He noted that when aggregated, these expenses amount to an estimated 7 billion Kenyan shillings, raising concerns over the financial burden on taxpayers.
So I told them, just tell us, what do you think it would cost? According to this, by rule of thumb, the lowest process that came up was it would cost 10 million shillings to go through a public participation. There are others, some kind of bills whose nature requires you to do even more in terms of public participation. And the departments were giving us figures of 50 million to 100 million to go through the full hog. Ladies and gentlemen, 700 pieces of legislation multiplied by 10 million alone at the lowest is about 7 billion shillings.
Mudavadi emphasized the need to balance between democratic inclusivity and fiscal responsibility, questioning whether such high costs justify the process when essential services like healthcare require funding.
If public participation is going to cost a government at the lowest something like 7 billion, how do you reconcile this between doing public participation and supplying drugs in a hospital? How do you reconcile this between building a bridge or a hospital and doing public participation? So in the whole framework of open government, we are now faced with a situation where the principle is correct, but did we factor in the cost?
His remarks come amid growing debates on the effectiveness of public participation in Kenya, where concerns have been raised about limited citizen involvement in key decision-making processes, despite the high financial allocations for such exercises. Hilary Kabila, GBS News, Nairobi.
For the second day running, candidates seeking to become new chair for the Independent Electoral and Boundaries IEBC chair were publicly interviewed by the selection panel. The 11 candidates shortlisted for the IEBC chair seat are facing Dr. Nelson Mukanda selection panel at College of Insurance at South Sea in Nairobi.
So as a new chair, I will actually begin by taking a sample of some of these reports, the previous reports.
The search for the new Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission chairperson entered day 2 today at the College of Insurance at South Sea, here in Nairobi. First to face the Dr. Nelson Mukanda selection panel was Erastus Edung Ethekon, who was put to task to explain whether he thought he had mellowed in age to handle the election matters in the country.
So what do you tell people who are saying you could be young enough to be the chair of IEBC?
Thank you, CPA Tandui. Maybe looks are deceiving. I don't know. But at the age of 48, going to 49, I think this is the prime. This is the best age any professional can wish for, to be in positions of higher calling and higher responsibility. So to me, I feel I have the energy. I have the aptitude, the intellectual alertness. I have the necessary tools in terms of education and experience.
And whether he possessed the courage to manage the high pressure from presidential candidates.
Do you have that stamina to address those presidential candidates that have walked into IBC headquarters, that are confronting you and demanding that you do certain things in a particular way?
Even applying for this job is pressure itself. I will speak from my heart. There are those who say, congratulations, go for it. You have what it takes. Then there are those who are saying, no. You're going there, you're going to die. They're going to beat you. They're going to do this, all this negativity. And the sum total of it, when I soul search myself, I say, but even if I don't go there, who will do it? Some Kenyan must do this job. Unless we are talking about outsourcing it.
Then the time came for Francis Kakai Kisinga to be put in the hot furnace, albeit the afternoon sweltering heat. The experience he would bring to IBC was put on focus.
That's right.
That's right.
Out of your experience, and of course your experience emanating from your entire career, what are the competencies that you have picked, skills and disciplines that are outside the legal profession that you can use to steer the IBC to the next level as a chairman?
Thank you for that question. As you observe elections, and I said 8 countries have consolidated certain skills and in essence acquiring them as now my call of nature in terms of election. One, you need to understand administration. In the countries and in the places I've visited, I've been able to understand that an EMB can easily mess the election if the administration, the governance structures of that institution, and the management of that institution is lacking. That is a skill that I want to import and try it here if I'm lucky.
Other candidates were the former Nairobi County Assembly Clerk Jacob Ngwele Mvwenge and the current Kenya Power Board Chair Robert Akumu Asembo. Interviews will continue tomorrow for the last 3 shortlisted candidates for the IBC chair. Then as from Thursday, the selection panel will begin to interview the 105 shortlisted candidates seeking to become the new IBC commissioners. Victor June, GBS News at 9.
Orange Democratic Movement Party Deputy Party Leader Godfrey Osotsi has today assured the government of delivering over 30% of the total votes to the broad-based administration come 2027 general election, in exchange with development which, according to him, the National Assembly Speaker Moses Wetangula and the Prime CS Honorable Musalia Mudavadi failed in 2022. As Odinga's Western popularity keeps decreasing as locals from the region threaten to end their support for Odinga, as Davis Karani reports.
Wengine ambao wanaongea kando, hao walisaini mkataba ati watapata 30%. Miaka 2.5 wameshindwa kuleta 30%.
The deputy party leader for the Orange Democratic Movement Party, Honorable Godfrey Osoti's statement comes in amid the rising political tempers in the Western region, as Odinga's political backing from the Western region keeps reducing, especially after Honorable Peter Salasya was attacked on Sunday during a football match by a group of people who are believed to be Odinga's supporters, according to the locals from Kakamega County.
Ila amesahau huku ndiye alikuwa anakuja kuomba kura, na huku ndio yeye ndiye alipata kura mingi sana.
Ni vibaya sana mtu akiuliza akisema ukweli mnampika na kumuumiza. Na ninauliza serikali ilikuwa wapi?
Kwa nini yeye akiingia kwa serikali hataki mtu mwingine aongee? Hii Kenya tuko na kila mtu ako na uhuru wake kutetea inji ya Kenya. Sasa vile Peter Salasya ametetea mambo ya SHA, mumeenda kumfinyia ndani ya uwanja.
In this match between Harambee Stars and Gabon, Salasia is being seen pushed out of Nyayo football pitch by a group of people who have not been identified till now, raising more alarming questions as Mumias locals raise their concerns while accusing Odinga of a Salasia's incident.
PK Salasia ndio mjumbe peke yake ambaye anatetea wananchi wa Kenya saizi. Maneno ya Sheikh ikienda wrong, PK ndiye anatuambia. Nini ikienda abductions ikienda wrong, PK ndiye anatuambia. The rest of the leaders wote wamenunuliwa. Lakini serikali inaweza amua iungane na Raila kuanza kutunyanyasa.
Osotsi hinted and stated on ODM delivering a huge amount of votes to President William Ruto as they aim to deliver what Wetangula and Mudavadi could not raise to the president, raising more alarming questions on whether the Western region will once again fall apart as 2027 general elections approaches.
Sasa mtuache sisi ODM tulete 30%. Ama namna gani? Ile mlishindwa, sisi tunaenda kuleta kupitia kwa Raila Amolo.
Davis Karani, GBS News, Nairobi.
In a bid to address the escalating conflict in the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo, President William Ruto, together with President Emmerson Mnangagwa, co-chaired a virtual joint summit with leaders from the East African Community and Southern African Development Community today. This summit followed a previous meeting in Dar es Salaam and decided to speed up the peace process. The leaders also appointed 5 former heads of state to help finding a lasting solution to the crisis.
President William Ruto alongside President Emmerson Mnangagwa co-chaired a crucial virtual joint summit aimed at finding a solution to the escalating conflict in the Eastern Democratic Republic of the Congo.
In Eastern DRC is not getting better, it is getting worse. And therefore, it is a source of concern, not just for DRC as a country, but all of us in the East African community and SADC.
To bolster the peace efforts, the summit announced the appointment of 5 former presidents as facilitators. Their combined experience is expected to play a crucial role in navigating the complex dynamics of the conflict. The leaders adopted a comprehensive report outlining implementation measures for sustainable peace, including a roadmap developed by defense chiefs. They directed relevant parties to swiftly implement these measures and called for a joint briefing with a new panel of facilitators within the next 7 days, conducted by SADC, EAC, and the African Union. President Ruto also highlighted the commitment of Presidents Paul Kagame of Rwanda and Felix Tshisekedi of DRC, citing their recent face-to-face meeting as a positive step.
And congratulate our 2 brothers, President Felix Tshisekedi and President Kagame, for a face-to-face engagement that they have had in the last few days. Again, a clear demonstration on their part that they are equally committed to seeing to it that we resolve the matters in Eastern CRC and also that affect our countries and our region.
As the newly appointed panel of facilitators prepares to engage, the region holds its breath, hoping for a swift and lasting resolution to the crisis in Eastern DRC. Reporting for GBS News, Irene Juguna.
The judiciary under intense is launching a bold new offensive against corruption. The Chief Justice Martha Koome has announced a groundbreaking collaboration with the National Intelligence Service and the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission. Susan Nganga with more.
For too long, allegations of bribery, absenteeism, and delayed justice have eroded public trust in the courts. Now, the judiciary is shifting from reactive complaints to proactive intelligence. Chief Justice Koome revealed that the National Intelligence Service and the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission will be deployed to court stations nationwide.
We are now complementing the complaints approach with an intelligence-based model that involves working closely with the EACC and the National Intelligence Service.
This intelligence-led approach aims to identify corruption hotspots and patterns, allowing for early intervention.
This partnership allows us to proactively identify patterns, hotspots, and individuals who may be engaging in corrupt practices and to intervene early. Our objective is to protect the integrity of the institution and to create a culture where corruption cannot thrive, where corruption is absolutely outrun.
Beyond rooting out corruption, the Chief Justice has also tackled the issue of delayed justice.
One of the major issues raised by court users is the frequency of adjournments, many of which are avoidable. Frequent adjournments not only delay justice, but also contribute to the growing public frustration and erodes confidence in our courts.
This crackdown comes amid mounting pressure, including calls for resignation over alleged judicial misconduct.
We meet at a time when the judiciary has been placed under heightened public scrutiny. Across the country, there are concerns raised not only about the timelines and quality of our service delivery, but also about the integrity of a few within our ranks.
Chief Justice Koome maintains that these efforts are part of a broader commitment to transparency and accountability. While the specifics of the deployment remains unclear, the move signals a shift in how the judiciary plans to operate. Susan Nganga, GBS News.
It is time for us to take a short break. Keep your feedback streaming in our social media platform at GBS TV Africa. The SMS line is 214. We'll be right back.
Anza wiki yako kwa njia sahihi kwa GBS Jumatatu.
Niko nawe hadi mida ya saa 4 asubuhi. Kwanza niseme asante kwa kuzidi kufuatilia na kutazama vipindi vyetu ambavyo huwa tunakuandalia hapa ndani ya GBS TV Jumatatu. People are now seeing the money that have been given to church as a bribe.
Jiunge nasi kila Jumatatu asubuhi kuanzia saa 1:30.
Nimesikia mwenzangu akifanya hesabu hapo ya vile ambavyo miungano zitakuwa. Ruto is going to fail whether with Raila or without Raila.
Kuna mahali anakosea akisema ati Raila na Ruto wataungana. Hakuna kuungana iko hapo, ndugu yangu, aje nikwambie ukweli.
Hadithi za kunoga.
Ukiangalia Wakenya, wananchi wa Kenya, pia hao maisha yao imedhulumiwa kwa kuongezwa kwa taxes, ziko very high taxes. So the statement by Rigathi Gachagua is just statement ya kumcheck that we can see you we can see between the lines.
Na mazungumzo yenye nguvu ya kukuletea utulivu kwa wiki yako.
Ati Raila ataingia UDA.
Nasema hivi mheshimiwa, ikiwa
Raila itakuwa, mimi naona itakuwa
hadi saa 4 za asubuhi kwa majadiliano ya kusisimua.
Mheshimiwa Rais William Samoei Ruto ajue ya kwamba sasa yeye ni president wa Kenya. Sio mambo ya kufanyia wana Kenya mzaha. Kupoteza biashara kwa siku moja katika CPD, nafikiria ni jambo ambalo ni rahisi.
Usikose, ingia kwenye GBS TV. Anza Jumatatu yako kwa kusudi.
Tuonane panapo majaliwa ya Mwenyezi Mungu.
GBS Jumatatu. palipo mjadala wa leo na mwelekeo wa kesho.
But then one day, I thought, I'm definitely going to go to hell. So I began to read the Bible a lot. Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Ruth. And as I kept reading the Bible, something amazing was that each of the words inside the Bible began to live inside me. This is really amazing.
And welcome back. Now, authorities in Mombasa and Kwale counties have intensified efforts to tackle the rising threat of juvenile gangs behind violent attacks. Led by Coast Regional Police Commander Ali Nuno, authorities held meetings in Likoni and Ukunda addressing concerns from local residents and business owners about the increasing criminal activities.
Intensified efforts to combat the rising juvenile gangs involved in violent attacks. Led by Coast Regional Police Commander Ali Nuno, authorities held meetings in Likoni and Ukunda, responding to growing concerns from residents and business owners. The commander criticized top security officials for failing to address criminal gangs, warning that they could be dismissed if they don't make a progress.
Kama vijana imeshinda nyinyi, then you have no mandate of you being here. Hamna haja. Utakuwa wananchi wanakatakata na mko hapa. Every day somebody is bleeding, somebody is bleeding. County commander yuko, hospital yuko, DCC yuko. Why are we there? Tunafanya kazi gani hapo? Haitakubalika hiyo. Haitakubalika hiyo. Kazi mpaka ifanyike na hiyo vijana mpaka tutafute.
Authorities have warned that parents of minors involved in criminal activities will be held accountable for negligence and also promised heightened security measures including increased patrols and intelligence operations to dismantle the gangs.
Poor parenting is contributing to this problem. Ama ni mzazi, weka pingu, abebe msalaba yake. Hao ndio wanataka hivyo. Tena jina ya mtoto na mzazi yake. Sawa? Wabebe pamoja. So that we get them out of the order.
The police have arrested 47 youths in connection with the recent attacks in Likoni and Ukunda, and investigations are still ongoing. Local officials also emphasized the importance of community cooperation and witness protection to ensure justice. Triza Tiengo, GBS News.
The SEA Teachers Burial and Benevolent Fund has taken legal action to recover over 7 million shillings allegedly misappropriated by former official Secretary Calvin Ochieng has revealed. Speaking in SEA Town alongside Chairman Ambrose Ouma and Treasurer Jacinta Ojuka, Ochieng said the decision was made after a forensic audit exposed financial irregularities. The officials were particularly alarmed by claims from the previous office that Aha's account held 7 million shillings only to find it dormant with no funds. Despite concerns from some members about delayed reimbursements, Ochieng assured that the fund remains operational and has been gradually settling outstanding payments. In 2023 alone, 2 million shillings was reimbursed to members who opted out. He further disclosed that they inherited a backlog of 13.1 million shillings owed to 342 members, which they have been reducing systematically. To address concerns from retirees, the Executive Committee plans to convene a meeting to discuss the best way forward.
There are accusations that we are not attending to retirees. As STBBF, and with the backing of the group that we have here, we can confirm that STBBF is currently engaging the retirees despite the challenges that we had from the time we came into office. This team came into office in January 2023 by 3rd, and when we walked into the office, the records that were handed over to us officially indicated that there was a backlog of 13,178,816 shillings which had not been paid to the retirees. The total number at that time was 342 retirees. We came in with all the difficulties. We have come progressively and paid these retirees.
As the chairman, I'll request our members to remain calm. Let them not buy the allegations they had over the radio stations. The society is doing very well, and I believe with us we are doing our work, which is mandated to us by the constitution of the society. So members, be calm. We are going to give you a comprehensive report, and there is nothing which is wrong, and things are well.
The core mandate of our society is to help us in burying our teachers, burying their loved ones, giving them a decent send-off. Unfortunately, what instigated this move was when we lost a madam teacher by the name Madam Eunice, who was a teacher in the Buro zone and was transferred to Kajiado. The madam died. Despite of that, our beloved officials that we elected, knowing that will take us a notch higher, neglected the death. They treated this as nothing happened. The madam died, the madam was buried, no reimbursement of funds done, no compensation done, neither did the officials attend even the burial ceremony to comfort the family members.
The ongoing violence in the Democratic Republic of Congo has led to an increase in refugees fleeing to Burundi, placing immense pressure on food assistance program. Since January 2025, nearly 70,000 refugees have arrived, with the World Food Program now struggling to meet the rising demand for aid.
An increase in the number of refugees fleeing violence in the Democratic Republic of Congo has placed significant pressure on the World Food Programme's food aid efforts in Burundi. Since January 2025, nearly 70,000 refugees, mostly women, children and the elderly, have crossed into Burundi, with many enduring dangerous river crossings and long walks to escape the escalating conflict. As a result, the World Food Programme refugee caseload has doubled to 120,000 in just a few weeks, forcing the agency to reduce food ratios for existing refugees due to limited resources.
We have been able to provide these refugees in this camp with the hot meals as soon as they arrived here, and we are able to provide this basically because we had to reduce the assistance to the old refugee caseload and provide them with something we had in hand. This crisis had put an immense pressure on WFP's food pipeline, which we are stretched. We are appealing to donor communities to come forward and provide funds so WFP can assure the emergency food assistance to this new caseload, as well as the previous refugees which are in the country, which has been here for more than decades.
The World Food Programme has warned that it can only sustain operations for current refugees until June unless additional funding is provided. Without this support, the WFP will be forced to suspend food assistance altogether as refugee numbers continues to rise, worsening the already critical human crisis in the region. Triza Tiengo, GBS News.
We are taking a short break. Keep your feedback streaming on our social media platform at GBS TV Africa. The SMS line is 21144. We'll be right back.
How to avoid food poisoning. Tips to prevent foodborne illness. You'll need sealable containers, a cutting board, antibacterial soap, lemon juice or vinegar. Step 1. Check the dates of the food products before buying and before cooking. Step 2. Store food in the recommended temperatures to keep them fresh. Step 3. Discard any food that smells or looks questionable. Step 4. Separate meat and vegetables at storage. Step 5. Use plastic chopping boards and not wooden ones. Bacteria can get trapped in wooden boards. Step 6. Wash your hands thoroughly with antibacterial soap before handling food or after handling meat. Step 7. Refrigerate leftovers within 2 hours of cooking.
Today,
today that I would like us just to have that conversation on monthly matters.
Let's talk of Mama Fua, who like akifanya shughuli zake hapa kule has more or less that amount.
Yeah, so on that part, I would say this. When you are doing your savings, you can have, we normally talk about having 3 buckets. So we will just talk about income, budgeting, saving, and investment. Those are the 4 areas we will look at.
What happens to those like me who are planning to retire early?
We are basically looking at our incomes. We also talk about savings and investment. So those are the 3. I will not add the 4th one, which we all shy of talking about. So I would say it's not how much I am earning, but it is how much I set aside. So
we are going to be talking about goal setting itself and building resilience. Goal setting and building resilience.
So hawezi sema nita set goal then someone else akuja kuwork on the goal. Hawezi sema uta set goal yenyewe mwenyewe huwezi reach. Hawezi sema uta set goal na mali una stand like huwezi reach ile goal umeset.
Just imagine I've promised someone that I will do something to them by the end of this year, and then surely I fail. What will happen? You know, they will say Steve has broken my heart.
Nimeset hata mimi goals, but ni realistic goals.
Unajua ni realistic?
Because najua I'm capable of, like, they're realistic. They're making sense. Sijasema nanunua V8 by the end of the year. But because I know inaweza kuwa impossible because mtu anaangalia si kumake tu. Unajua utaandika by December 31st nataka kuwa na iPhone 16 Pro.
It is insane to do the same thing and expect different results. Yeah, so definitely we need to see, like, if it is not working, what is in this system that is making this thing fail, and I'm expecting these results. How can I improve this project?
The goals that you set, maybe ukiona like maybe that can be affected by kitu huwezi avoid.
About self-competition. I'm only in competition with the person I see in the mirror, and that is me. So it is about my personal development.
It's not just a matter of writing and putting and now waiting, you know.
Everywhere, GBS.
And welcome back now to international news. In Zimbabwe, a sharp reduction in U.S. funding for HIV and AIDS programs is threatening vital healthcare services, with clinics closing and awareness programs ending. Meanwhile, across the border in South Africa, the ongoing HIV crisis continues to claim lives, particularly among young women and girls. Experts warn that if these funding cuts are not reversed, the global HIV pandemic could worsen dramatically by the end of the decade.
In Zimbabwe, where the U.S. provides 80% of HIV-related funding, the recent cuts in financial aid are taking a heavy toll on the nation's ability to manage its HIV epidemic. Clinics have begun closing their doors, and many healthcare workers are no longer able to administer critical HIV tests. Programs that once raised awareness about prevention and health are now shutting down, leaving thousands vulnerable. The Zimbabwe National Network of People Living with HIV has reached out to the government, urging them to explore alternative sources of funding to continue these essential services. But as of now, the future remains uncertain.
And through the USAID, we've been doing programs where we are trying to manage those situations. But now if the aid is nowhere, then it means that the stigma and isolation is going to be exacerbated. As an organization, we've been encouraging the ministry to look into alternative funding, be it local or international donors.
Across the border in South Africa, the situation is equally dire. With the highest number of people living with HIV in the world, 7.7 million out of the 39 million globally, South Africa is facing an alarming reality. More than 800 young women and adolescent girls between the ages of 15 and 24 become infected with HIV every week, a staggering statistic that highlights the ongoing struggle in the region.
HIV response in South Africa, 76% of it comes from the fiscus, 17% comes from the US government, and about 6% from the Global Fund. There is no doubt that there has been impact based on the PEPFAR executive orders, but with the little that we have and integrating services, HIV, TB, STIs, the screening for cervical cancer allows us to be able to stretch each rand and to stretch each dollar and to reach more people, even with the little money that we have.
UNAIDS, the United Nations agency dedicated to ending the global HIV epidemic, is working with governments and partners worldwide to mitigate the impact of these funding cuts.
If the U.S. assistance for HIV is not restored after the pause, as you know, the pause ends in April, and is not replaced by other funding, and we have not heard of other governments pledging to fill the gap, there will be an additional, in the next 4 years, 6.3 million AIDS-related deaths.
But without restored funding, the consequences could be catastrophic. The number of AIDS orphans will rise by 3.4 million, and nearly 8 million more adults could become newly infected with HIV. Reporting for GBS News, Irene Juguna.
The latest Israeli airstrikes in Gaza have resulted in the deaths of 23 Palestinians. The Israeli military has ordered residents in Gaza to evacuate from the northern strip, accusing Hamas of firing rockets into Israel. Meanwhile, in the West Bank, an Academy-winning Palestinian director of documentary called No Other Land was attacked by settlers and later arrested by the Israeli military. His whereabouts remain unknown at the moment. Furthermore, the Trump administration is facing scrutiny by accidentally adding a journalist to a group chat that exposed war plans against the Houthis in Yemen. Abdi Ahmed reports.
Today, the Israeli military conducted another wave of airstrikes that resulted in the death of 23 Palestinians. A total of 700 Palestinians have been killed since Israel broke the ceasefire agreement, destroying any hopes of restoring permanent peace plans. Tens of thousands of Palestinians from the northern strip are ordered to evacuate after the Israeli military accused Hamas of launching rockets into Israel. A total of 50,000 Palestinians have been killed. Meanwhile, an Oscar-winning documentary filmmaker, Hamdan Balal, who won an Oscar for his movie No Other Land, was attacked by Israeli settlers. There are conflicting accounts of events that happened that night. One, Balal was confronting a group of settlers who were stealing livestock, and Balal was having an iftar gathering at a village in Hebron when a group of settlers came and attacked the iftar gathering. The Israeli police arrived at the scene and arrested the director together with other men. Balal was one of the co-directors of No Other Land, a movie that depicts the settler violence and the displacement of Palestinians in the West Bank. The Trump administration is facing another scrutiny following top officials accidentally leaking war plans in Yemen to a journalist using a group chat. A journalist from the Atlantic named Jeffrey Goldberg was added to the chat. Top officials were discussing conducting airstrikes against the Yemeni Houthis just hours before the airstrikes. The head of the Pentagon, Pete Hegseth, shared information relating to weapons, targets, and sequencing attacks. The chat also included accounts of Vice President J.D. Vance, Secretary of State Marco Rubio, and CIA Director John Ratcliffe. The journalist has also referred to the sharing of information as reckless. Hegseth attacked the journalist who was accidentally placed in the group chat.
Talking about a deceitful and highly discredited so-called journalist who's made a profession of peddling hoaxes time and time again, to include the hoaxes of Russia, 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 or the fine people on both sides hoax, or suckers and losers hoax. So this is the guy that peddles in garbage. Nobody was texting war plans.
Trump stated that he lacked any information about the group chat.
I don't know anything about it. I'm not a big fan of The Atlantic. To me, it's a magazine that's going out of business. I think it's not much of a magazine, but I know nothing about it.
The situation in Gaza and the occupied West Bank remains critical as human rights abuses and violations of territorial integrity are on full display. While the recklessness of the Trump administration is facing scrutiny, the question remains, what will the international community, including the United Nations, do to protect a group of ethnic populations that is facing horrors in their daily lives? How will the Trump administration secure their classified information without getting them leaked? This is Abdihamid Ali, GBS News.
Tragedy strikes at Samsung Electronics as co-CEO Han Jong-hee has passed away at 63 years old from a heart attack. Han, who took the helm in 2022, played a crucial role in overseeing the company's consumer electronics and mobile divisions. With his sudden death, newly appointed CEO Jun Yang-hoon is now leading the company alone, tasked with addressing challenges in Samsung's struggling chip business and navigating global trade uncertainties.
Samsung Electronics co-CEO Han Jun-hee has died at the age of 63 from a heart attack. Han, who became CEO in 2022, was responsible for overseeing the company's consumer electronics and mobile divisions. His leadership played a key role in the company's growth and innovation. With Han's passing away, newly appointed CEO Jun Yang-hoon will now lead the company. Jun, an expert in Samsung semiconductor business, will focus on uplifting struggling division amidst global trade uncertainties and rising competition. Han's death comes at a critical time for Samsung as the company faces challenges in its semiconductor sector. Jun's leadership will be crucial to ensuring stability and continued success in the technology giant's operations. Elvin Muyodi, GBS News.
South Africa's G20 Sherpa Zandengo briefed the UN General Assembly as the country prepares to assume the G20 presidency from December 2025. With a focus on solidarity, equality, and sustainability, South Africa aims to tackle global challenges, prioritize equitable development, and amplify the voices of the global South.
An informal meeting of the United Nations General Assembly was held in New York, where South Africa G20 Sherpa Zandengo briefed the plenary as the country prepares to assume the G20 presidency from December 2024 to November 2025.
I welcome the African Union's inclusion in the G20, which is an important opportunity to amplify Africa's voice in global economic governance, while ensuring that the development priorities of the African continent and the global South find expression firmly and permanently onto the agenda of the G20.
As we advance the implementation of the Pact for the Future, the Group of 20 will be critical to ensuring that inequities are addressed, more resources are provided, and better terms for development.
The G20, representing 85% of the global economy, 75% of the world trade, and 67% of the global population, is poised for a term focused on inclusivity, sustainability, and equitability development under South Africa's leadership. The African Union's inclusion in the G20 is a significant opportunity to amplify Africa's voice in global economic governance, ensuring the priorities of the global South Africa are embedded in the G20 agenda. Paris Kigo, GBS News.
U.S. officials will conduct a meeting with Ukraine in Saudi Arabia. This news comes after U.S. held talks with Russia that resulted in an agreement that would limit attacks in the Black Sea. U.S. officials are hoping that this marks the first step towards a long-term ceasefire solution. Here's more on the story.
Later today, Ukrainian officials are scheduled to meet with their American counterparts after yesterday's meeting with the Russians became more positive, offering a glimmer of hope to end the 3-year war. Russia agreed on a ceasefire proposal that will limit attacks in the Black Sea. The Trump administration has considered that this marks the first step in achieving long-term peace in the region. Ukrainian President Zelensky stated that his goal is to achieve real peace and security.
We need a movement towards real peace, towards guaranteed security. Russia is the only entity that is dragging out this war and mocking the whole world. And to pressure Russia towards peace, strong steps are needed.
Meanwhile, Ukraine conducted a strike on Russian-occupied territories of Luhansk, which killed 6 people, including 2 Russian journalists. The attack happened while US and Russian envoys were discussing peace plans. While Russia attacked a Ukrainian city called Sumy, injuring 65 people. As talks regarding peace plans have progressed, the war between the two nations is still ongoing, with casualties being reported every day. Will the Black Sea ceasefire proposal lead to a more comprehensive peace plan that will end the war between Russia and Ukraine? This is Abdihamid Ali, GBS News.
In a major trade policy development, President Donald Trump signaled possible exemptions on his planned auto tariffs, boosting Wall Street. However, he remains committed to strong reciprocal measures. At the same time, Trump announces a new 25% tariff on countries importing oil and gas from Venezuela. Furthermore, intensifying economic pressures, the move sparks a reaction from cargoes and pushes oil prices higher.
Donald Trump may be more flexible regarding new tariffs on automobiles and other goods than expected. During a cabinet meeting on Monday, the U.S. president stated that the tariffs will be implemented in the coming days.
And we'll be announcing cars very shortly, and we already announced steel, as you know, and aluminum. We'll be announcing pharmaceuticals at some point in the not too distant, because we have to have pharmaceuticals. We don't make pharmaceuticals anymore in our country.
Donald Trump mentioned that many countries might receive exemptions, though he did not provide specific details. Earlier reports suggesting a possible partial reprieve were welcomed by Wall Street, leading to a sharp rise in U.S. stock prices. Despite this, a White House official cautioned against expecting significant concessions, emphasizing that Trump remained committed to enforcing strong reciprocal tariffs. The president has frequently argued that his trade policies will boost revenue and create jobs. On Monday, he also announced a $21 billion investment in the U.S. by South Korean automaker Hyundai.
Hyundai will be producing steel in America and making its cars in America, and as a result, they'll not have to pay any tariffs. You know, there are no tariffs if you make your product in America.
Trump escalated his trade measures by introducing a new restriction. He declared that any country purchasing oil or gas from Venezuela would face a 25% tariff on exports to the U.S. Trump accused Venezuela of sending tens of thousands of extremely violent individuals to America. In response, the Venezuelan government firmly and categorically rejected what it described as a new act of aggression. The announcement contributed to a rise in oil prices on Monday, with U.S. benchmark crude oil increasing by approximately 1%. Vivian Wanjala, GBS News.
The United Nations has announced plans to scale down its operations in Gaza as the humanitarian crisis deepens amid renewed Israeli strikes. UN spokesperson Stephane Dujarric confirmed Monday that Secretary General Antonio Guterres made the difficult decision to reduce the United Nations footprint in Gaza even as humanitarian needs soar and our concern over the protection of civilians intensifies.
The United Nations has announced plans to scale down its operations in Gaza as the humanitarian crisis worsens amid ongoing Israel airstrikes. United Nations spokesperson Stephen Dujarric confirmed that Secretary General Antonio Guterres made the difficult decision to reduce the United Nations presence in the region, despite rising humanitarian needs.
The past week, Israel carried out devastating strikes on Gaza that claimed the lives of hundreds of civilians, including United Nations personnel. No humanitarian aid was allowed to enter the Gaza Strip since early March. As a result, the Secretary General has taken the difficult decision to reduce the United Nations footprint in Gaza.
The situation has rapidly declined after a week of intense Israel air and ground operations, resulting in the deaths of hundreds of Palestinians. In the last 24 hours alone, over 60 people, including women and children, have been killed, pushing the total death toll to over 50,000. The United Nations has called for an immediate ceasefire, urging all parties to respect international law and protect civilians.
All parties must comply fully with the international law at all times. Civilians must be respected and protected. The denial of life-saving aid must end. The hostages must be released immediately and unconditionally. All states must use their leverage to stop the conflict and show respect for international law.
Meanwhile, Egypt has proposed a new plan to halt the fighting and resume negotiations, but with the conflict showing no signs of easing, Gaza's humanitarian situation remains critical. Paris Kigo, GBS News.
Well, it's time for your most favorite segment of the show, the sports news. Let's get sporty. Kirsty Coventry made history as the first woman and first African to be elected president of the International Olympic Committee. The 41-year-old former swimmer and Zimbabwe's sport minister was warmly welcomed back home after a historic victory. Coventry triumphed in a competitive race in Greece, overcoming 6 other prominent candidates. She called her win not just as a personal success, but a victory in breaking down barriers.
Kirsty Coventry.
The newly elected International Olympic Committee President Kirsty Coventry received a heroic welcome in her home country of Zimbabwe after her historic victory. The Zimbabwe sports minister made history as the first woman and first African to be elected president of the International Olympic Committee. The 41-year-old former Olympic swimmer triumphed in a competitive race, beating 6 other candidates, including top sports leaders. She described her victory as a collective achievement that broke down barriers.
We broke down so many barriers in that boat, and I want to thank all my IOC colleagues for giving me that faith and giving me that confidence and giving me their trust. This is going to be an exciting tenure.
Upon her return to Zimbabwe, Coventry was welcomed with traditional celebrations, with local praising her as a unifying figure.
We are excited. We will stand by you, we will support you, and we know that this is not just for your personal thing.
While her tenure as sports minister has faced some political scrutiny, her election to the IOC president has been widely celebrated. Coventry will resign as sports minister to begin her 8-year term as IOC president in June, where she will tackle key issues like athletics benefits, Russia's suspension, and gender eligibility in the Olympic movement. Elvin Muyodi, GBS Sports.
Well, we have come to the end of the news bulletin. It is always a pleasure having you on board. Let's do this again, same time, same channel. We make your news our business. My name is Stephen George, and the sign language interpreter tonight has been Paul Madenge. Good night.
Everywhere, GBS.